Guys, I'm not going to sit here and try to prove to you that I'm an Uncharted video game fan. Like, what, am I going to just, like, bring out all of the video games and just show you that I actually have played them and I do really enjoy them? Absolutely not. So, you know what? Let's just get into my review and talk about whether or not they did a good job at adapting this into a full-length feature film. What's going on, everyone? James here with another real review, and today I'm so excited to finally talk about Uncharted, which is hitting theaters this Friday. A huge thank you to Sony Pictures for giving me the chance to watch this early for review, and we got a chance to see it in IMAX. Now, it does star some really good names here, like Tom Holland, Sophia Ali, Tati, Gabrielle, Antonio Banderas, and Mark Whalberg. But does the entire cast come together, and will this movie actually surprise some video game fans? I'll have an answer for that later, but hey, before we get into my review and we talk about what worked here and what didn't really work too well with Uncharted, if it is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James, where I love talking about movies like this all the time. So if you do too, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on that bell, and hit the thumbs up button if you are a big fan of this series and of the video games themselves. Let me know down below in the comments too, what's your favorite Uncharted video game? Mine is Uncharted 3. It's the best one, yo. Alrighty, y'all, so let's get into a little bit of what the movie's about, because if you're a video game fan, you need to separate your expectations here. I'm going to give you a little bit of commentary about why as a video game fan this was disappointing, but as a movie fan, this wasn't terrible. Now, the film itself is directed by Ruben Fleischer, who actually directed Zombieland, which was good, and Venom, which was not good. And funnily enough, one of the screenplay writers here is Art Markham, who actually wrote the screenplay for 2008's Iron Man. That's pretty surprising. Now, the movie itself puts us in the shoes of a young Nathan Drake, where he meets Sully at a bar that he's working at, and they begin their treasure hunt to find some gold that could be worth billions of dollars. Now, of course, these two are not the only ones looking for the $5 billion treasure. Santiago Moncada is actually looking for it as well. He's played by Antonio Banderas. So, guys, let's just get into what works with this film, because I'm so surprised at the fact that this is just not a terrible action movie. Now, I did really enjoy 3 performances here, because I do think that even though Antonio Banderas, yes, is a legend, I do think he takes a back seat to some of these other stars here, like Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. Even though, yes, he is a little too young to play the role, I think he captures the charisma in this unconventional sense of fighting too, and all the infighting dialogue with Tom Holland here is actually pretty effective. And then there's Sophia Ali, who does an amazing job as Chloe Fraser. In the video games, yes, at first you kind of don't trust her, but after a while you start to grow to really love her. And then in Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, you learn more about Chloe and Nadine. So I thought that Sophia Ali not only did a great job at nailing Chloe as a character, but she provides some of the best back and forth between her and Tom Holland's Nathan Drake that this movie can offer. I think the movie is at its best, and it's kicking in gear basically when Tom Holland and Sophia Ali are paired up together on the screen. Now, when it comes to the villains, we just don't have to deal with Antonio Banderas. Of course, we have Tati Gabrielle's Braddock. Now, to my knowledge, Braddock is definitely not a character mentioned or even featured in the video games, and I will say though, in the movie, I think this character is really cool, and I really love Tati Gabrielle and what she brought to this performance and brought to this role. Now, did they kind of pull away from her in the second act, or I should say second half of the movie? Absolutely. But I do think that she is a very dominating presence and force on screen, and she does the best job she can with the script that is afforded to her. Tati Gabrielle is a character, or I should say an actor, who I really hope we see if they make a sequel to the Uncharted film, because I think Braddock is a good enough villain that does provide some amazing moments in this movie. So our core cast does have some highlights, but what about everything else? And when it does come to the action, of course, the Uncharted video games are known for their big set pieces, the larger-than-life scale in which they really just let the character thrive in. And in the movie, there are a couple of instances where I've felt that impact. One of them was this bar scene. Yes, it's a smaller moment and it doesn't last for very long, but I love to see Nathan and Chloe kind of just like pair up to beat the Scotsman and literally beat him over the head. This is where I got the full sense of Nathan Drake as a character fully realized in this movie, and even though it doesn't last last long, it still was a breath of fresh air for me. And then when we get into the cargo scene, which the movie teases in the intro and then comes back to eventually, I thought the cargo plane sequence, which of course we see in Uncharted 3, was really well done here. Yes, a lot of CGI, but I did feel like we were going through the skies with Tom Holland's Nathan Drake, and it did have a sense of adventure to it, and there was at least a decent enough build up to that one scene. That is the marquee scene, I would say, in this movie, and they do pull it off. But of course, every good action scene sometimes is aided by a good score, and here the music is composed by Ramin Djawadi, who we know as a legend from Westworld and even the most recent Eternals. Ramin's score is actually really good here, and I was surprised because it had that main character impact, because there were moments where we see Chloe and Nate just like chasing each other in the middle of this like really busy marketplace or anything like that. We actually got a cool sense of adventure from the score itself. So I was wondering, hey, who composed this? Because in the back of my head, it actually didn't stick out like a sore thumb. Now, there are moments where the score kind of goes largely unnoticed and it does feel just a little bit phoned in, but that's not often. That's really something that we feel mainly in the first half of the movie, but I do think in the second half the score is just much better. So there is enough of that sense of adventure here for casual moviegoers and hardcore fans of these video games alike. There's also some really cool Easter eggs for fans of the video game series, so you guys might want to keep your eyes open for that. Okay, so we got a decent core cast, some awesome action moments, and some really good music to really just kind of be the cherry on top. But what doesn't work about Uncharted? And honestly, I'll come at this in two ways. One, as a video game fan, so let's start there. And I will say that, guys, I just don't think that they really capture the essence of all the action set pieces. And what I mean there is the direction is just way too jarring for me, and it doesn't allow me to feel the impact of the action on screen. Ruben Fleischer has always been one of those hit and miss directors for me, and here I think he does stick out, sadly. I think the actors are doing the best they can, but it's the direction in the middle of these action moments that I didn't feel was very good. A lot of cuts, some jarring movements, and weird establishing shots. So I think that maybe Ruben Fleischer, it wasn't the best choice to direct this film. He does get by, but it's not enough for me to really feel the overall weight and scale of some of these big action moments. And when it comes to the writing, I'm a little sad that we didn't get more of young Nate and young Sam, who's Nate's brother. Rudy Pankow plays young Sam, and I really thought he did a great job, and I wanted to see more of that, because it really is essential, especially in the video games, for us to understand Nathan Drake's childhood and why he loves his brother so much. So it was interesting to see that they did have a flashback sequence, which I do believe we get in Uncharted 4. So if you're coming in here looking for a linear story and expecting everything to line up, don't do that. See, that's where my video game lens has to be taken off, because you have to sort of come at this as a, okay, they're making a movie for the casual moviegoer, but they still want to sprinkle in some things for the hardcore video game fan. So the story is not linear. They're gonna pull set pieces from all the different video games and then pull them into one film. So even though I did want a little bit more backstory for Nathan Drake, maybe they touch on that in the sequel if there is one, because the ending definitely keeps the door open, let's just say that. But now moving on to the next negative, and this is where I feel like even as a video game fan or a movie critic, I can't tell you I think my opinion would change, and that is the casting of Mark Whalberg as Victor Sully Sullivan. Now, Sully is a character in the games that I love. There's this awesome banter between him and Nathan Drake, and they have this great unmatched chemistry, but Sully always has an impact, and he's always really helping Nathan fight. And in this movie, Sully takes a backseat for most of the film, and even Mark Whalberg, he is just woefully miscast here. He is not convincing me that he is Sully, and even his dialogue is just a little bland for my taste. And I gotta say, even from an acting standpoint, Mark Whalberg is one-upped by almost everyone he's interacting with in a scene. He's very one-note compared to the very dynamic Tom Holland, and even compared to Sophia Ali. Heck, even that short conversation he has with Tati Gabrielle, you can just tell that Mark Whalberg is really not exploring a wide range of emotions, and Sully in the games at least was. I was just really disappointed in this area, and also there's something they do with the character of Sully at the end of the film that, well, didn't hit, I'm sure, the way they intended it to. And honestly, by the end of the film, I left feeling that this is, yes, just another generic action movie in many regards. The dialogue, sometimes the way everything is written is very tropey, and you get some of the typical action tropes that are found in this film. And I also don't think that some of the jokes work too well. You can tell that Tom Holland was trying to add his flair to it, but even that couldn't mask what some of this writing really was at the end of the day, which is just pretty generic. And that's probably my biggest issue with the film, is that it doesn't do anything to really stand out. Even in an IMAX theater, this movie doesn't really leave a lasting impact. And I just think that this film could have been much better than it was, but they were playing it very safe, and there was a by the numbers approach here, and I just didn't really think that suited what Uncharted is at its core, which is a crazy, out of this world experience, especially if you play the games all the way from Uncharted 1 to Lost Legacy. So I was a little disappointed here, and I think that's the biggest cloud that looms over this movie, is that it is okay, it just doesn't do anything to really be a unique action movie, and Uncharted is definitely a unique experience. So overall, you guys, this movie is not awful, but it does have some areas where I'm really hoping they improve on if they do give us a sequel. And if it makes money at the box office, all signs point to an Uncharted 2. But I think they do need to maybe include a little bit more of what works, which is Tom Holland and Sophia Ali together. I really hope that, you know, we see more of Tati Gabrielle, to be honest with you, and I just don't know how they're going to work around the Mark Whalberg Sully situation, but I think that's just going to be an issue that will never work for me. I'm sorry guys, it's just not the right casting, and I think the performance wasn't very great either, unfortunately, so it just sticks out like a sore thumb. I do think that they need to bring in a director that understands action and how to shoot big set pieces, and really they need to give us a script that is a little bit smarter. Yeah, they need to give us a script that's smarter, especially because these characters aren't dumb. You can't diminish them to just, I don't know, generic dialogue here. They're smart characters, especially in the video games. So Uncharted, again, would be one of those like 3 out of 5 movies for me. It's a film that I think is definitely suited for streaming, because even seeing it on the big screen, again, those action set pieces just don't hit all the way. So if you're a video game fan and you come in here with very low expectations, guys, I do think you're going to really enjoy this film. And if you're a casual moviegoer, I think there's enough here for you to chew on, and hey, at least the movie doesn't feel long. And thank goodness, because I was worried. I saw the near 2-hour runtime and the movie didn't really feel that long at all. Funny. So there you have it, guys. That's my real review of Uncharted, which again hits theaters on Friday. But when you see it, let me know down below in the comments what you thought of this film. Did it live up to your expectations, or did it exceed your expectations? And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the big red button below, subscribe to the channel, tap on that bell, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up button again if you are a fan of Uncharted. Alrighty, y'all. Well, you know what? I'm gonna go and... oh, dang it. I'm looking at the games again. Yeah, I'm gonna go start my replay. Alrighty. Fire up the PS4. It hasn't been fired up for a while. Alrighty, y'all. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.